Hi, I'm Michelle B. Griffin, and welcome to the podcast of the She's Visible movement, the show where we help women, experts, and leaders become recognized authorities in their fields. I'm delighted you're here. Now let's get going with today's show. Hey, everybody, back for another week and hope you are doing well. Today is the second act, how to really present on a stage. Whether you're wanting to speak, an experienced speaker, an upcoming TED speaker, or one on your vision board, I am so happy to bring back Tessa Rawson, who is a TEDx organizer and TEDx coach for more than a decade in Europe and the US. She was on last week's episode, which I'll link to here. And this one's not just for TEDx. She has dropped so many speaker coaching, presentation coaching tips. In fact, I had people reach out to me when this was originally on my LinkedIn Live show saying, thank you, Michelle. You have brought so much value between the first TEDx episode and now this one, and just helping us think everything from delivery to the talk to the audience engagement, what we wear, the slides. So I can't wait for you to listen and learn the things you wouldn't necessarily think of, but definitely need to know about. I know you're going to find so much value. Let me know. You know, I love podcasting. It's such a connection point, but I also know that it can get lonely on the other side of the mic. If you are listening to this show, I would love your feedback. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. It is so good to hear from my listeners. Now let's get into today's show. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Michelle B. Griffin, and I'm so glad you're here. We're back for the second act, and that is the second act on how to present on a TEDx stage. We brought back our awesome guest, Tessa Rawson, all the way from Scotland. So welcome back, Tessa.
And Michelle, thank you so much for having me.
It was such a good topic on how to land a talk. You get the yes, yay. Now what? Let's jump right into it. We have about 6 or 7 topics to cover. Where do we go from the big fat, you got it?
So obviously now you've got there, you know that you're going to be on the stage, you have the date. Now you have to figure out how do you prepare yourself to be ready to present on the date. And obviously the first thing you got to do is build the talk. And for some people that might feel really simple, they probably maybe had this idea in their head for years and they can just build up from the application. And for other people, it might feel such a huge jump from the nascent idea that they had in the application to figuring out how do you actually build a talk out of this one idea.
Especially before we even say that, you and I were talking pre-live in the green room. Some TEDx's give you 6 months, some maybe, if you're lucky, 6 weeks. So what do you do if you have a lot of time or little time? What's the next best thing with the time crunch?
Ideally, the longer, the better. I'm sure you would agree with this. There could be a lot of soul searching involved in trying to figure out what you want to say. It's a big stage. It matters. There's a potential audience of tens of thousands, millions out there that could see your talk, but you want to get it right. So I would say as soon as you find out that you're on the stage, that's the time to start working. If it's 6 months, draft out that talk, get it in front of people, do ask for feedback, for suggestions early on, workshop your idea with friends and colleagues so that you feel really good about the structure around it. You're probably going to draft it many times. I know people that have done 20, 30, 40 drafts of their TED Talks. If you've got 6 weeks or a month, obviously you have much less time to play with that. So just get writing, get structuring your idea. The first draft is the hardest. So just bang it out. Just get it all down on paper as much as you can. Don't worry about time. Don't worry about flow. Just get that first draft out of you. And then you can go from there with the editing and the redirecting and the restructuring.
I think I had about 2.5 months when mine was the initial, hey, you got it, to let's get on the stage. And I remember doing a lot of whiteboarding, and we go to a big workshop, and that helped me. Everyone's a little bit different. I knew what I had wanted to say because when I submitted it, I had started to do some slides. Would it behoove you to have a better idea of your talk when you apply? What is the best approach, or have you seen it all over the place?
It really varies. There's definitely more successful ways to come at it than others. The way that I work with my clients and with speakers when I've organized my own events is we start right at the end. What is it that you want to say? What's that one thing that you need to get across? Because there's 2 audiences with a TED Talk. There's the audience that are going to watch online, and that's the huge audience. But the organizer is curating for the audience in the room, maybe 100, maybe 500 or 1,000 people, and they might see 10 of the speakers on the day. So you have to think, oh my gosh, if I'm presenting in front of a group who've seen 10 other talks, how are they going to remember me? What's the one thing I want them to know? And we start with that, and then we build it out. We work backwards. How do I get there? How do I get them to feel what I want them to feel? How do I get them to remember this thing that I want them to do, or the way I want them to act, or the perspective shift that I need them to understand, or the idea that I need to build in them? If it's something scientific or technical and you have to completely build a new idea, how do you do that? What's the best structure that's going to help me get there? Is it a linear narrative? Is it more of a circular story? Is it breaking down an old paradigm so that you can build up a new paradigm? There's so many different ways to tell the story. So you have to know what it is that you want to achieve before you can figure out what the structure is going to be.
Your big idea worth sharing in the takeaway. That's so important. So you get to the whiteboarding. Then let's go into the preparation. I know there's some are 8 minutes. I don't think there's that many that are 17 minutes anymore. It seems like a lifetime. You were telling me pre-room you have a lot to say about this. Let's talk about the memorization versus internalization, which is what I did. I had it nailed every single time I'd say the same thing, but if 3 words changed in the sentence, I didn't freak out because I knew I was internalizing. And I kept telling myself, you're not memorizing, but it was the same thing every time, because I knew I would trip up and freak out. And I know that happens to people, but there's people who can just nail it. What is your experience that lands best on the stage?
So this is without doubt the question that I get asked the most is, how on earth do I remember it, right? Like you say, it's rare nowadays that you'll be offered 18 minutes on the stage. It happens, 15 minutes happens. Most likely it's going to be a 10-minute talk or less, somewhere in the 8 to 12 range. And so you have to figure out for yourself, what's the best way for me to learn this? So some people really need that memorization. Otherwise, there's no way they're going to get there. Some people need the guidelines like you talked about, and some people just need bullet points. The problem with the less structured you are, the more you're going to rely on bullet points or a general flow, the greater chance that you're going to go down an alleyway that's either going to get you lost, be a big diversion, or you're not going to be able to get back out of it. And you're just going to keep adding time while you try to figure out how to back out into your talk. I've seen it so many times, particularly in the early days of organizing events when I was less rigorous with my speakers and helping them figure it out. I relied more on them realizing and recognizing what they needed to do. But you don't have to memorize word for word, but you have to know it inside and out. And so I say that you need to get through uncanny valley. So uncanny valley is when you can see people reading it off the back of their eyelids, their eyeballs roll up, and they're just rote memorization.
Yeah.
We say you need to know it happy birthday ready. You need to know it so well that you can just reel it off. When you're in the car, when you're feeding the dog, when you're going for a walk, when friends are chatting in the background, that's when you need to be able to deliver it like that. And the way to get there is to practice chunk by chunk. There's different systems. This is the one that I advocate because it's very rarely going to lead you wrong. You memorize your first paragraph, your introduction. You have it perfect. Great. Forget about it. Move on. Next paragraph. You get that perfect. Next paragraph. And you work all the way through. You don't bring it together until you have every section perfectly. And it doesn't have to be rote memorization. It just needs to be roughly what you want to say in each one. It can change a little bit, right? Like we said, you say, it's a beautiful day, or the weather was absolutely incredible. The meaning's the same. You can work with that flow. That's awesome. It gives a real kind of natural feel to the talk, but you have to be able to get through each section and not worry about what's coming next. So practice your transitions, practice your introduction and your conclusion, but only put it together when you've done the same amount of work on every section. Otherwise, what happens is your intro gets repeated over and over and over again. And your ending paragraphs don't get the same repetitions, and you really need to practice the whole thing. And it's surprising. People have an inflection point where they suddenly get it. It suddenly just starts to feel natural, and you don't worry so much about those missed pieces. My one huge piece of advice, which I try to give to every speaker before they go on stage, which I think is the most critical piece. If you get lost or you forget what you're going to say, first of all, don't worry about it. The audience is with you. You will never have a more sympathetic room than an audience who is panicking on your behalf because you've forgotten what you wanted to say. Take a second, regroup. If you have notes, check your notes, or if a prompt has your script. But then don't start where you left off. Go back to the beginning of the sentence, the beginning of the section, and start again. Because a great edit will just chop that right out. And so then you can clear so many of those fumbles or mistakes in a good edit. And that's always my kind of secret backstage tip is great TED Talks aren't always perfect. They're just really well edited.
Some of the greatest I have heard, I'm not mentioning names, I've heard some people go, and it's the message. Wow, that's good about just going back. And for me, every time I present, unless I'm showing a slide like an example, I knew my talk without the slides. I had someone do my slides for me. I told them exactly where. I had like a black slide buffer for each one between it. But I knew my talk without that slides. And to me, that is the most reassuring thing because if tech or something goes wrong, I know my stuff, but I'm always scared of the tech messing up. That's the biggest takeaway from today. If you're on a stage and you mess up, which we don't think you will, but just go back to square one because we got to remember the video editing. Brilliant, brilliant, Tessa. I love that. Let's talk about the presence. Have you looked at some TEDx talks on the TEDx YouTube channel? Some of them start kind of formulaic. Do you know what I'm talking about? They all start at TEDx aura. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's always so hard because you have such a short amount of time. I believe that a huge factor in your success on the night and the feel that you have when you walk onto the stage is a really great host. And there's unfortunately nothing you can do about that. A great host who keeps the audience really engaged between talks, gets them excited and motivated for you to come on, can make a huge difference. One of the things that I like to practice with my speakers is talking about how are you going to enter? Are you going to walk to your mark and start? What are you going to do with your hands? These are all things that you need to practice. So mainly so you don't panic on the night. How are you going to start? What's your opening sentence? The most important thing is that you try to establish your eye contact and your rapport with the audience. It comes down to body language. If you're closed up, if your hands are crossed or in your pocket or you're sideways to the stage, the audience are going to pick up on that so much. You've been introduced, you walk to your mark, take a breath, smile. That clock is going to run and your instinct is going to be to get through it as quick as possible. So walk to the spot, smile, take a breath. You could even do they can edit that out, but it just lets you feel a second and then launch into it. Same at the end. Don't rush off the stage. I see it so many times. You're so relieved that it's done that you don't even wait for the applause. You just spoon off there. Take 3 breaths, not 1, 3, because in your mind, it's like a minute. It's not. It's barely 3 seconds. Your heart's going to be pounding. Smile. You can do a little nod. And then if you have to, walk off the stage. But that rapport is so built on your body language, even before you open your mouth. So walk on with a smile. Take a second. Take a breath. Have a look around. That matters. The audience will see that you feel relaxed and they'll relax on your behalf. And that resonance between the audience and the speaker is palpable.
I remember doing that, not scanning the audience. I don't remember my ending, if I waited 3 seconds or not. I think I did, but I don't know. There's no video of it, so we will never know. 3 breaths, and that's a calming thing, the breath work for any performance. So let's talk about the movements. Let's talk about what you coach people on, not just giving the presentation, eye contact, but other movements.
There's a fine balance, right? You don't want to be stuck rooted to the spot because it feels very tight, but you also don't want to walk around too much because it's distracting for the audience. So trying to find a balance between it. And it comes down to practice. So much of everything that we're going to talk about today can be managed. You can build confidence through practice, through the memorization, the preparation, how you move, how you say things. The more you practice, the more prepared you are, the more comfortable you'll be on the stage. So with your hand movements, use your hands, use your body. It's very engaging. The audience want to see you move around, but you have that red carpet, so use it as a gauge. Put a carpet in your house. Maybe you've got a rug roughly the same size, or put some masking tape on the floor and use that as your guide and practice. While you're doing your speech, practice doing it in a space. And ask someone. I have a list of questions, which are feedback questions, which I advocate for a speaker to practice with. If we were practicing together, and if you were the speaker, I would have my list of questions. And so the questions would say things like, am I moving too much? Are my hand movements distracting? Do I click my fingers? Do I have any annoying habits? Do I turn my back on you? Do I repeat myself? And so it's really hard to give good feedback. But if you have a crib, not to read while you're listening, you should be engaged, but get some of this feedback early on in your practice from people that you care about and who want you to do really well, because you might have a nervous habit that you haven't even realized. That kind of feedback is really helpful because you just want it to be natural. And the more you practice, and in different situations, don't always practice in the same place. Practice in the bathroom, practice in the hall, on a walk, because that stage is going to be new. And if you're so reliant on a certain visual cues in a room and they're gone on the night, you're going to feel it.
Let's talk about style and clothing and also the red dot. I have seen so many different size red dots, which I think some are just like bathroom mats. I don't know. And also your clothes pop, know the backdrop. And this is what I do when I keynote speak, because I want to know what the backdrop is so that my clothes pop. And my shoes, I remember when I went to the rehearsal the afternoon before, that red dot was really squishy. And I made a mental note, especially depending on your shoes and the ladies, if they're wearing heels, you don't want to trip on it. As small as that, but it could make a huge difference. Bring a different kind of change of clothes. You just never know if you don't know in advance, or even if you get there the day before, bring a bunch of different things. Any more feedback on what you're wearing, the style, the shoes, or anything like that?
Ask as many questions as you can. Most events will have a rehearsal at least the day before, sometimes a couple of weeks before, depending on the event and if you're able to go. So find out what's the backdrop. If it's a black backdrop, you don't want to be wearing black because you're going to melt into it. You'll just be a floating head. Same if it's a red backdrop, you don't want to be wearing red. Tight vertical stripes or tight stripes of any variety are really tough on camera. Wear big stripes, go for it. But just remember what that might look like. Be aware, it's probably going to be the sweatiest occasion of your life. Don't wear a shirt that's going to show any sweat marks because you'll be devastated in the moment. It might be your favorite shirt. Don't wear it for your TED Talk. The other thing to be really aware of, particularly if you have long hair, and particularly so if you wear braids, be really aware where your mic is, because if you have a Britney mic, the hair can rustle on it, earrings can rustle on it. If you have a lapel mic, if you have long hair, again, if you wear braids, it can grate on the mic and it can create a kind of staticky friction noise. Know what kind of mic it is as well, where to put it. A lot of mics have a battery pack. If you don't have pockets or you don't have a belt to clip it on, they will tape it to your back, which is not the end of the world, but if you're not used to it, it can be distracting. And feel comfortable. You don't have to wear the fanciest thing you've ever worn, but if that makes you feel awesome, wear the thing that makes you feel awesome. Wear the thing that makes you feel comfortable. And if you've got new shoes, make sure you wear them. And it's like going on a hike, right? You don't wear your new hiking boots on the mountain. You wear them around the house. Same with your heels.
They moved my talk to the last because it's such a good message to close us out. I was the last one. I went on stage at 8:00 at night, and I had been there since 3:30. So my feet were killing me. It was very painful. If I had to do it over again, I probably would have just worn flats in the back. I wasn't even thinking. I was like, oh, I'm going to look good. No, your comfort is utmost importance in the green room until you get on stage. So just bring different things. You never know. Now let's do slides.
The slide thing is a really important one because it's a big question that people have. Should I have slides? You mentioned this, that you should be able to do it without the slides. And I coach this for all kinds of storytelling. I work with founders as well who are pitching, and there's a reliance on the deck. It feels comfortable, particularly if you come from a kind of corporate environment and building a deck and doing a presentation feels second nature to you. It can be a real crutch. And so I always advocate, build the talk first, write the whole thing, everything, down to the stories, to the structure, to exactly how you're going to say it. And then figure out, where do you need slides? Where can the slides remove 30 seconds of words, because it can just be a really arresting picture or a photo, some stats, a chart. Keep them really simple. Absolutely no bullet points. I do not want to see your bullet points on these slides. But again, if it's something relatively technical or scientific, if you can use a graph or a data set to make your point very clearly, absolutely do it. If a picture can elevate the story that you're telling by showing the audience what you want them to feel in that moment, absolutely include the pictures. If you've got certain things that you need the audience to remember and you want that double hit of hearing it, and absolutely. But as soon as your slides are detracting rather than elevating what you're saying, you're doing yourself a disservice. And as soon as the slide says something different or holds different information than what you're saying, you're not accentuating it, you're actually canceling them out. They're either reading what you've written up there and not listening to you, or they're listening to you and not reading what's on the slide. So I would say as few slides as possible, and they should come right at the end of your process.
They wanted us to have so mine were just pictures to illustrate the point or two words. I personally have a vendetta against speaking and you read the slides. 2 decades being a conference event planner, and I saw way too many presentations. They're just reading the slides. No, we can do that ourselves. When in doubt, just go look at the TEDx YouTube channel, not to copy, but just see what they do and get some ideas there. So we got to talk about the video tell me about the process real quick. 99% should go online.
Yep.
Unlike mine. Tell me the whole process.
So all TEDx events are recorded. I have a video and AV team that will record it. The team will then edit those videos, and every TEDx organizer must upload those videos to the TEDx YouTube channel. Sometimes, as you've experienced, Michelle, it doesn't happen for whatever reason. Unfortunately, technical errors do happen. I can count on I need 2 hands now, the number of people I've worked with who've ended up having some kind of technical issues on the night and they couldn't be published. Unfortunately, it happens. However, most times they should go there. It used to be that only the best talks ended up on TED.com. Now, basically everything ends up on TED.
Really?
Which is amazing. So you have much greater chance for eyes on your video. The TEDx organizers, the organizing teams, they're not particularly interested in pushing your video once it's been published. Our perspective is all about the evening. We're event curators. We want to have a wonderful event. Once the video has been published, it's on the speakers to get out there and promote it. And I would say one thing to keep in mind is the video also belongs to TED. You will sign a piece of paper before you get on that stage saying, this is not your video. This video belongs to TED. You can use it, but you can use it either in its entirety or in clips of up to 30 seconds, I think. You can't use it for your own marketing in long clips. But these days, people are only using short clips anyways. No, it's fine. It's just good to know that talk does belong to TED. And so the most successful strategy for having your talk get a lot of views is to create a campaign around it.
So one book launch.
Exactly like book launch. Before it's even gone out, have an email list, have a bunch of people on social media that can join your launch team who are essentially agreeing that as soon as it's published, they're going to promote it. They're going to comment, share, link, all the things that we know are really successful on social media. And I've seen that be so successful for people. The bigger your launch team, the greater the chance of your video being picked up, because like all algorithms, once it starts to get a little traction, it gets pushed out through its own little tendrils across the internet. And so that's a really great way to break certainly the 1,000 view mark, but especially the 10,000 view mark. If you can reach that threshold relatively quickly, then that's really great. But also remember the great thing about a TED Talk in that it has legs. I have clients from 6, 7, 8 years ago, speakers from events that I organize, and they're still getting 10,000 views a year. They have this amazing legacy. So don't worry, don't be fixated. Oh my gosh, it only got 5,000 views. That's amazing. 5,000 views, and you still get to say that you're a TED speaker. Get it on a YouTube playlist. That's the other advice that I always give. If you talk about authenticity or you're in the healthcare profession or you're autist, find YouTube playlists about similar topics and get your talk on that playlist, because then people who are interested in your subject matter will find you on a playlist. And if you can't find a playlist, make your own.
That's great advice. One last question before we part today. Tessa, when you coach speakers, what's the moment a talk has shifted from good to truly worth spreading?
Ooh, that's when you get the goosebumps. When you hear it and you go, that's it. Then it needs to be when your audience can repeat back to you in one sentence what your idea is. That's it. You've got it.
You got a golden takeaway idea. We're spreading viral, hopefully, to change lives. That's so good. Tell us where we can find you if someone's interested in all the things you help with the TEDx.
So best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I talk about TEDx, pitching, public speaking, and storytelling pretty much every day. So you can find me there. My business is called Resonance Ideas. I am always so happy to talk TEDx with people, whether we work together or whether I just point you in the right direction. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I would love to chat and hear your big ideas.
I want to thank you again, Tessa, for coming back again to share. You just give us a masterclass last month and this month. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And if you have an idea, we're spreading weekly, monthly, all over the world. So just keep trying. It's not a one and done, or it's not a apply and you get it. It is a process. For those listening, you have an idea and a message, so get it out there. You have a brand to build, a message to share, and people to impact. We'll catch you next time. Take care. That's it for today's episode. And before we go, can I ask a favor? I would be so honored if you could give this show a rating and a review, because that helps more women who are maybe on the sidelines and so ready to put themselves out there, or who are ready for their next level and can find us and learn everything they need to build their visibility, their personal brands, and become thought leaders in their space. Thank you so much. Until next time, take care.